What's going on there, guys? Good evening. It is I, the Earth Master, out here on this beautiful Thursday, April 7th, 2022, about 6:44 p.m. California time. Latest quake shows a 4.5 earthquake over here around the Mediterranean region. Starting to see quite a bit of increase in movement in this area over the last 24 hours. Let's go ahead and check out the latest data out here on the globe, or the flat scale map in this circumstance. Seen some movement out here around Taiwan earlier, but a couple hours ago had a 5.7 strike up here in the area, almost a 6-pointer, 10 kilometers below surface. Pretty shallow earthquake movement out there. We did see this earthquake show up on quite a few Japan seismograph stations here up to the north, so pretty strong shaker out there around Taiwan. Prior to that, we did see some movement up here just off the coast of Japan and further south along the Mariana Trench with a couple fours throughout the course of the day today. Also some movement down here in the Philippines that kicked up prior to that 5.7. So there's still quite a bit of increase in pressure here along the western part of the Pacific Ring of Fire and the adjacent plate here and the Philippine Plate region. Seeing quite a bit of movement and some subsequent pressure releases there and buildup. 4.6 in Indonesia as well earlier. Pretty deep movement around the Java Trench. Fiji Islands, though, look at this. Tonga, Kermadec Trench all remained quiet far as 4.0 and above goes. I want to verify this with the EMSC model just to make sure that, if there's earthquakes happening or not, because sometimes the USGS does tend to skip them, and it looks as though that may be the case. Got at least a 4.3 out there occurring earlier this afternoon. I'm not for sure why the USGS has not issued any earthquake data for this region. This is the EMSC model showing, in this case, in this map, pretty much all the magnitudes 2.0 and above globally. But there is a couple fours kicking up down here into the Kermadec Trench region. And some smaller quakes here around the North Island. A couple threes kicking off earlier this morning. So I'd like to verify the activity here when the USGS kind of shows a quiet spell. That's in turn to double check and reassure the data that's being provided to us by looking at another agency such as the EMSC or the GeoNet servers for the New Zealand area. South America region, some fives kicking off here. Pretty deep. Look at that. 118 kilometers to 193 kilometer deep earthquake movement here on this major subduction zone here, the Peru-Chile Trench. Got to watch that area pretty closely there. Major accumulator in slip rate and some large earthquakes at that. The Big Island, we did have a 3.7 kick up here and a 3.4 in the mix of this activity here on the southeast region. Looking at some pretty good sizable earthquake there in the 3 range. No major movement to report around Mauna Loa or the Kilauea volcano. Loihi Seamount still has one earthquake here from last night with that 2.2, but we haven't seen any further renewed movement in this area, just confined here to the southeast region. The rest of the island chain looks pretty quiet. Up into Alaska, some movement along the Aleutian Trench. This area has been, it's just been a little spotty here. I know we see these microquakes kicking up here over the last 7 days, but if you notice, we haven't seen any major movement here. We can look at the 4.5 map and above. The Gulf of Alaska is very quiet. This area right here has a tremendous amount of slip rate accumulation here. And it's just been quiet, very quiet. This area and also South America, although South America has seen a little bit more movement than the Gulf of Alaska and the Aleutian Trench. It's the only area, aside from the west coast here, which just seems weird. I still think this may be pointing towards something up here in the Cascadia, but this area right here normally at least sees a 4 or 5 in a week's time frame, and 7 days of 4.5 and above, look at that. Zip, zero, nada. So got to watch this area pretty closely here. I know we got stress building up. Just a matter of time before we see some subsequent movement kicking off here. A little bit of swarming up here. I'll let you be the announcer in pronouncing that name. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to slaughter it. I'm sorry. couple 2s and some 3s kicking off here in this area of Alaska, 12 to 13 kilometers. One of those down to about 15 kilometers below surface, so some deeper movement in this area of Alaska. The rest of the Alaska range looks pretty active, of course, in terms of microquakes, and this is very typical here throughout the Anchorage and the Denali area. Cook Inlet seen some movement as well, but just watch this area pretty closely here for subsequent larger movement here pretty soon. One earthquake out here earlier this morning, 3.7 off the coast of Oregon. This is in the Blanco fracture zone. Far as general seismic activity along the Cascadia, I'm not seeing a whole lot. We did have some further movement up here on the northern end, right about here between the Juan de Fuca and the Explorer plate up here to the north. And in order to see that, we're going to go over here. Well, EMSC isn't even showing it. Going to have to go to the Earthquakes Canada map to view that seismic activity that kicked up this morning. I don't get it. I don't see how some of these quakes get ignored in a major area. So here is the earthquake in question that popped off early this morning off the coast of the Vancouver Island ranges out here in the middle of this plate boundary, the Juan de Fuca and the Explorer plate. A 4.0 kicked off. So I'm surprised the EMSC hasn't shown it. I'm not surprised the USGS hasn't shown it, but Earthquakes Canada is, and we've seen that come in to a local seismograph station over here on the Vancouver Island area. We've seen that this morning. So we knew there was a larger quake, didn't know where it was until we looked at the Earthquakes Canada map. And so far, they're the only ones that are showing it. Pretty significant. This is a very active area, northern end of the Cascadia subduction zone here. It ends right up here where the Pacific and the North American plate take over. Explorer plate, Juan de Fuca plate, and of course you got the microplate known as the Gorda plate down here at the southern end. But it's been pretty active up here on the northern end of it and stretching across this area with that 4-pointer. What else we got here through the Pacific Northwest? Not a whole lot being reported. A couple small microquakes scattered out and about the Pacific Northwest. Northern California about the same. Some movement heightened up here along the eastern crest of the Sierra, including a 2.3 in the Coso Junction area, just north of the Ridgecrest area, close to the Coso Volcanic Range, south of the Owens Valley Fault Zone. They had a pretty big earthquake back in 1872 there. Long Valley Supervolcano, seen some movement up here as well, outside of the caldera though, and around the Mina, Nevada, some microquakes kicking off here. One earthquake down here south of Victorville in the San Bernardino Mountains with a 1.4 in the Big Bear City, California area. 2.5 kilometers, pretty shallow earthquake up there in the mountains. San Andreas Fault Zone, Desert Hot Springs South, pretty quiet along that plate boundary. Not a whole lot going on there. I'm just surprised we haven't seen that big one yet. But the bad thing is, the further and further, longer and longer that we wait, the more powerful this thing is going to be. 8.1 magnitude earthquake down here in Southern California, going to be shaking things up for sure pretty soon, no doubt. Each day that goes by is a day closer. Texas, western, I guess it's western, right? Southwestern Texas. I don't know if they like being called Western Texas out here, but Pecos, Texas area. Okay, north and northwest of there, seen a little bit of swarm of activity, 2 range. There's quite a bit of fields out here, oil and gas fields. Up here in Oklahoma, about the same. Some movement around the Enid area, north of Enid, and around Quinton, it looks like. McAllister area westward, it looks like there's a little bit of movement. I'm not for sure how to correctly say that name there, so we'll it looks like maybe R-pillar. So we'll see if we slaughter it or not. I know I will read the comments, no doubt, every single one of them. South Carolina seen some movement earlier this morning with a 2.0 at 2.9 kilometers, so a little bit of activity. New Madrid zone looks pretty quiet, folks. So yeah, kind of looking at the bigger picture here, we're kind of in a teeter-totter zone right now. West Coast activity right here, and the western part of the Pacific Ring of Fire and adjacent plates here as the Philippine plate sits in this region. And just kind of watching this area pretty closely. Although the deeper movement up here north into Alaska could be a telltale sign of some pending major buildup here along the Aleutian Trench in the Gulf of Alaska. So watch these areas pretty closely over the coming days. Yellowstone National Park, a little bit of activity kicked up this morning with some swarming. Looks like that has since kind of died off. A little bit of movement around Mary Lake. This here is very localized. Some seismic activity showing up on the recorded graphs. They have finally updated them. They're now current. There's definitely some seismic activity striking here around the Mary Lake region, and one within the last hour. USGS not showing, I don't think they're showing anything within the last couple hours up here. Let's see what we got. 04 1959 UTC time. I don't believe they're reporting that. 1959 UTC time. Maybe it looks like they might. This here is more closer to the 1400 time frame. That's going to be the 1.5. Could be that one. Looks like these guys are on the ball tonight. Although, look at this earthquake up here. 13 mile deep 1.0. So these guys, I don't know if they're updating their system or what, but they've been on the ball as far as reporting earthquake activity. Some of these small ones, I can understand they're not, even though they should. There's definitely seismic activity there on the map, but man, they're on the ball. USGS doing good. If you're looking, I don't know, maybe I'll see if I can get a job with those folks. Maybe I can help those people out there. I am currently getting a degree in physical science. Studies quite a bit of different categories in terms of the of that degree. So who knows? It's kind of something I've been interested in my entire life. Physical science, that is. So finally decided to jump in and get a degree in that area. I think that will help out in my future endeavors, no doubt. So USGS, give me a call. Nah, just kidding. What else we got, guys? Looking around, pretty much no major seismic swarm occurring. This activity here around the Grant Village area, you guys see that? It's a big old cluster of, almost looks like magma movement or something, right? Looks like maybe harmonic tremor, maybe some underground volcanic activity, but it's hard to say exactly what it is, although I am noting that activity showing up on several stations around the borehole area and Grant Village region as well. But is the question, it's not necessarily showing up on super distant stations. So it looks like it might be here as well. See this activity? See that movement right there? And also you can kind of get a glimpse of it down here in this area, the Old Faithful region. So I'm going to watch that pretty closely. It looks like Pelican Cove picking up maybe some of the activity as well. If this continues, then we will wonder what's going on, because it's obviously some type of volcanic activity. Earthquakes don't react in that nature. So I will watch that pretty closely. I do have a live station around the Madison River area, monitoring seismograph stations there on the seismic activity in that area on the live stream, kind of up here. So man, I don't know. We'll have to see if we can get something a little bit closer here. This is kind of very eye-catching, right, when you see this at a super volcano. But I'm not for sure what their wind speeds are up there. That could contribute to seismograph stations picking up stuff. And such. So weather does play a little part in that activity being picked up there, but we'll keep a closer eye on it. If we see that kicking up throughout the night and tomorrow in various stages, and no doubt we need to take a closer look at the activity. Tremor map tonight, folks. Let's go ahead and check out the tremor activity. 299 epicenters of tremor along the mostly Vancouver Island ranges, also southern Oregon. They did put out a recent ETS statement here, the tremor, right? Go ahead and check out the tremor log, I believe is where we want to go. The most recent data update is here on the bottom. So we're going to go to April 6th, which was yesterday, obviously, 2022. They give a pretty good statement, and it's weird because they only cover the Vancouver Island ranges. They don't really show anything about Oregon and the activity in Northern California. So they're mostly just confined to this region, which doesn't make sense because the tremor activity along the Cascadia is very important to possibly pointing out the large mega quake that it will produce one day. You know, it's good to watch these ongoing tremor events, and they're only covering this area. So the latest blog post for this ETS was November 4, 2021. It ended with a question: is this ETS over? So remember back in 2021, November 4th, we seen the tremor activity completely come to a stop and then kick back up, mostly in Northern California and Southern Oregon on the 21st of March. Okay, so there was a question here: is this ETS over, or will a section of southern central Vancouver Island light up? Finally, 5 months later, the question is answered. Yes, from March 20th, 2022 until today, and probably more days into the future, southern Vancouver Island tremor has been very active. It started in the north and is migrating south, at least regionally here. They're not looking at Oregon, but it's very important to look outside of this very limited map here. This doesn't really mean nothing. It means nothing when you're looking at the whole term of the Cascadia. Let's see. While most ETS events start down dip and migrate up dip before starting to migrate along strike, this tremor swarm has started at mid depths. Excuse me, folks. From about 2007 through 2016, the northern Cascadia episodic tremor and slip tended to have a large along strike extent and be large. Let's see here. We're not going to go into all of this. So, however, this zone has been segmented near the U.S.-Canada border with a complex sequence of events distributed in time in the U.S., followed by 1 to several months by nearly identical events. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Let's see here. If you want to read it, guys, go to the PNSN Tremor Network. These guys aren't really pointing anything out that could be concern of the Cascadia itself. They're just talking about, wow, look at this migration and blah, blah, blah. It's just, there's a lot. There's definitely a lot going on. There was that month of, or a few months of period, very quiet activity along the Cascadia as far as terms of tremor. But that has since changed. We're looking at well over probably 10,000 events since then, since the March 21st time frame when it kicked up. But you got to remember, this isn't the Cascadia subduction zone. It might be a segment of it, but the entire Cascadia extends up here past Vancouver Island ranges down into Northern California. This plays a big part. When you look at the tremor activity, you need to look at all of it, not just one little section. That could be very helpful in possibly forecasting or predicting the big one here along the Cascadia. So 299 on the epicenter count tonight, folks, with the tremor, mostly Vancouver Island ranges into the southern Oregon area. Northern California hasn't really seen anything over the past couple days, but they've definitely seen a large amount here on the southern end back in the later half of March. Solar weather activity, folks, we'll jump into that real quick. I didn't mean to keep this a super long video, but it is what it is. A dud of activity. You know, those fireworks that you get sometimes on the 4th of July, you light it up, it flares up, and then, man, what happened? Is it going to go? Do we go try and check it? Do we light it? It's a dud, right? And that's kind of what we've seen over the past couple days here with this forecasted G1 event over the past couple nights. It's all been a dud. So, no clear sign of anything popping off here in terms of the filament that was supposed to provide us with some solar storming. Solar sunspots right now are very minimal, all green across the board. Yes, there's sunspot activity, but you could have a giant sunspot up here taking up half the disk. But if there's no complexity, right? Why do I keep stumbling on that? Not for sure. But if there's no, intermingling of the magnetic field, so to speak, if they're stable in terms, you're not going to get any flaring. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. Some massive sunspots there on the sun, but they're pretty stable. Now, if these were to be very complex and start flickering and flaring, that could be a major X flare there from that sunspot. Pretty large and dynamic. All right, guys, we're gonna jump off here. I do want to give a thanks out to people that have voted, or not voted, but helped out here on the channel, far as the data and whatnot goes, or the what's the word? Super chats. There we go. These super chats and whatnot. People have been helping out quite a bit here. We do appreciate it. Last donation was from a YouTube username as Plastic African. Donated $60 here on the chat. So we do appreciate everyone that contributes here to the channel. We try to put it right back into the channel by providing good quality content, accurate content, no fear mongering, but accurate content, and of course always streaming here in 4K, and also helps to contribute to future geology trips here when it comes to investigating earthquakes and studying storms and whatnot. So things are going to get pretty busy here with me in school. Me and Miss Mimi's are both studying physical science and plan on getting a degree in that area, and it's only going to advance from there. But we do give a big thanks out to the people that do contribute to the channel. Thank you very much to everyone that has, and we will continue on towards our 75,000 subscriber giveaway. We're kind of paused right now, so the subscriber count hasn't gone down, but it's kind of leveled out, kind of plateaued out a little bit. So share the channel. Make sure you let your friends know that there's a cool channel here on YouTube that studies earthquakes, volcanoes, space weather, and we'd like to get out there in the field as well. And make sure they subscribe while they're here. We're going to be 75,000 subscribers. We're going to be giving away quite a few prizes to folks. I think you guys will like it. We did one last year at 50,000. We're waiting on that 75,000 subscriber giveaway, and I'm hoping we hit it pretty soon. Let me see what the subscriber count is at right now. We are at 72,441, so we got a couple thousand to go. I hope we can hit that by the end of summer, if not sooner. I mean, I'm pretty certain that we could reach that very quickly. A couple thousand is not that many, so let's make that happen here, folks, and get that giveaway going pretty soon. I'd like to do it early summer, so here in a couple months I would love to be doing that drawing. All right, guys, have a good night. Stay safe out there. We will chat you guys another time. Peace out.